Hello and welcome to another Leon Turetsky podcast, 2023 edition. I had a little break, but now I'm back. Today I wanted to talk to you about how do we figure out our values? How do you figure out what's valuable to you? Values, very simply, it's just what do you care about? What are the things that you care about? What's most important to you in your life? How do you choose how to spend your time? How do you choose, whether you should spend time working or being with your family? Those are values. So we'll dive into 5 ways that you can figure out what your values are. But before that, let's talk a little bit more about how we don't really know who we are. We think we do, but we're all confused. You see, most of us, we borrow our values from the society, from our parents, from what somebody else tells us to do, even from people that we admire. Now, there's nothing wrong with borrowing values from other people, but you want to make sure that these are also the things that you yourself inherently care about. Otherwise, you're always going to feel somewhat empty, or you're going to have this cognitive dissonance, where it's like you're doing something that you don't really believe in. Okay, so you want to figure out what your values are, and you want to make sure they're very much meaningful to who you are from the inside out. And I'll just give you an example. I was watching a lot of entrepreneurs and successful business owners at one time. I was studying their work, their podcasts, their books, and I was like, okay, I also want to make millions of dollars, and there's nothing wrong with making millions of dollars. I might still do that, but I realized for me, the money is not the driver. That's not a huge value for me. For me, it's about creating meaningful work. It's about serving people with the companies that I own, and money is the result of that. Of course, I want to make money, but it's not like I have to hit a specific figure for me to be happy. Okay, some people they might value having $10 million in their bank, and that's their value. Is very much about money. Again, it depends on who you are as a person, what you're trying to achieve, but understand that your lifestyle, the choices that you make are all going to come from understanding your values. The more conscious you make those values, the more you're going to be able to make the right decisions that really align with you as a person, right? So let's talk about the 5 ways that you can figure out what your values are. The first way is just think about what you loved doing as a kid. Like when nobody is watching you, what did you do most of the time? Like for me, for example, I loved watching Michael Jackson videos and imitate him dance. And guess what? I became a dancer, right? Now I'm a Latin and ballroom dancer. So that was my natural proclivity, is to watch Michael Jackson and try out his moves. And so we all have things like that we're drawn to as kids. And then for some reason, we stop doing those things as we get older. I've noticed a lot of people used to play piano, for example, when they were younger and they loved it. And then, their parents told them, hey, you need to be realistic. You need to get a real job. So forget about this hobby. Go to university. People do that. They get the job. They get the kids, all that stuff. And then later on, at some point, they're like, I really feel like my soul is missing something. So they go back to learning piano. Piano is just an example of some hobby that you might have loved as a kid, but you stopped doing it. So go back to your childhood. Really think about what did you like and what were you drawn to as a kid. That's going to help you unlock what your values are. The next way to figure out your values is reading books and learning from others. And it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, is that there's nothing wrong with studying people that you admire, celebrities, entrepreneurs, just anybody, thought leaders, anybody that you admire and that you look up to. You can get inspiration from them in terms of what values to go for. But again, you want to be very careful that you're not just taking other people's values and adopting them without really feeling whether it is aligned with you and what you really want, okay? Because again, you're going to be living someone else's life. So you want to make sure that, let's say, so what you want to do is you want to be very critical when you are studying these people, like, for example, they could be talking about their lifestyle, and let's say they work, let's say 80 hours per week, and they also take like 3 vacations per year, and they're happily married and all that kind of stuff. You can look at those 3 things and be like, okay, do I want to work 80 hours a week? Okay, that I'm not aligned with. But the 3 vacations per year, that I'm aligned with. So you take what you like from other people and you disregard the things that you're not into. Just don't adopt everything blindly from other people. That's what I'm trying to say. And so definitely get inspiration, learn from books, learn from autobiographies, all that kind of stuff. But again, make sure it's aligned with you as well, that you're not becoming someone that you're not, okay? The third way to figure out your values is to experiment with it, to try it out. Mark Manson talked about this, where basically you figure out, let's say you want something, but don't just assume right away that thing is going to be the thing that you really want. You don't know yet. What you could do is almost visualize or imagine yourself doing that thing and see how you feel, or just go and try it out. For example, let's say you really are drawn right now, or you've seen someone live a very party lifestyle where they're on they go to nightclubs every single weekend, and you think it's the best thing to do, and so you want to adopt that as a value. I want to be the guy that goes on the weekend to clubs and dances and drinks and has all these friends and parties, and that's a value you want to adopt, right? Now, you don't know if you're going to like it or not, okay? Because sometimes you might think you like it, but when you start doing it, you're like, this is kind of empty. I'm not really into it. So what you could do is actually just go and try it out. Go experiment with it first. Try it out for a month. See how you feel, instead of being like, oh, this is part of my values. You don't know yet, right? So experiment, try it out, imagine it in your mind, doing that thing first, and then see if you actually want to stick with it and adopt it as a value. So almost give it like a trial run in the beginning before saying it is actually something that you value. The next thing is, the fourth way of figuring out your values is listening or figuring out your emotional triggers. So I have a quote here from Carl Jung. He said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." So as you interact with other people, you're going to get triggered in certain ways, okay? You're going to get certain emotional responses are going to come up as you're interacting with other people, and that could tell you of some of those values that are dormant inside of you. For example, let's say you are interacting with a friend and you're supposed to meet up at 6 p.m. and he shows up an hour late, and that triggers you. Then one of your values is that people are punctual, or that that you value people being on time, or people respecting your time. So that's a value that came out of an emotional trigger from dealing with other people. So again, notice in your day-to-day with people that you're interacting to, all the relationships that you have, see how you feel about certain things that come up. That can also tell you about what's important to you, okay? And the fifth and final way to figure out what your values is, what are you naturally good at already? What is something that you do that when other people look at you, they think, that's so easy for him to do, but for me it's hard. Like for them it's really hard to do that thing, but for you it's like it comes very easily. So that usually says something about that thing is just part of who you are. It's part of your values. It's important to you. You're good at it already. So a lot of times, just being good at something tells you about what's important to you. And you also spend When you're good at something, usually you spend more time doing it and getting even better at it, because you almost don't notice time flowing because you're so into that thing. So that again tells you that is a value that is inherently yours. Okay, so yeah, those are 5 ways to figure out your values. And I hope this helps you. And if it does, leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. And otherwise, make sure you subscribe to this podcast either on YouTube or on iTunes. Also, leave us a review on iTunes. And I hope to bring you another episode soon.